Hello and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo. We're here at the South Park Center. I'm delighted to be joined with Kenya, who's come all the way from Austin, Texas to be with us here in Los Angeles with his fantastic film, Give. Let's take a look at the clip. Kenya, thank you so much for coming all the way to be here, and thank you for bringing Give to us.
Of course, that's my pleasure. I'm so happy to be in LA too. This is my first time playing in LA with this film.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Well, welcome to the New Filmmakers LA family. Every time I think about you, more tears come into my eyes, and I'm like, oh my God.
That's part of the point.
Part of the point. This is a beautiful film, and you know, after, as we'll get a chance to talk, there you have many incredible talents as a filmmaker. But for those that haven't seen it, tell us a brief synopsis.
The film is about a composer and his ex-boyfriend, and tracks their relationship essentially through music. So it's about love, loss, grief, all those fun things, and how you can move beyond after, you know, a tough relationship.
I mean, it's stunning, it's beautiful, it's poetic, and my goodness me, it's amazing, you know, how much you can feel for these characters you created. For you personally, where did this kind of inspiration begin for you to sort of turn this idea into a film?
Yeah, so it started, I'd always been interested in like making a film that combined music in an interesting way, where the music and the narrative are sort of inextricable from one another. And I've seen it done before, but I wanted sort of my own take on that, and brought in my personal life as well. Like I had a relationship that lasted, you know, about 1.5 years, and it was a wonderful relationship, but it was like a really tricky time for me, and I was going through music composition in grad school, and for my thesis I made a piece that was exploring a lot of those emotions that I was dealing with through that breakup, and wanted to express that sort of in this film. So
I mean, you really did, and you know what's amazing. My first thought was like, wow, this score is beautiful, and then that's what you do.
I know.
How was it scoring this particular film, of all the things that you've done, especially it's got sort of elements of personal, but also in the idea that you wanted to combine music with film in this way as well?
Yeah, it was definitely a challenge, because it's been a while since I've written music too, and so I was a little rusty, to be honest, at the beginning. But I knew that like if this were to work, I had to have written some music before production. So I wrote a draft of the music actually beforehand, and I really wanted to do something big and bold and orchestral. So I wrote a draft. We played that sort of on set, you know, for our cast and crew, also to help my cast sort of get into the emotional place of the film. I also wrote the music though, knowing that it'd probably change at some point. Okay. So I tried to keep, you know, the tempo of the music the same, so at least there was some consistency there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so once I got into post-production, like obviously things shifted a little bit, and that changed the edit. And so working with the music and the edit was like a challenge, but also really fun.
I mean, it's remarkable, because it's not always you get, you know, someone that writes and composes and, you know, directs, and obviously taking on all those particular roles that you did as well. And then I was going to say, it gives you a lot of flexibility when you're in control of all of those different elements. But how is it then as well, like when you've made this draft of this score, and then how does that then work into how you want to direct your actors? Because obviously it's got to have a flow. How was that experience for you as a director?
It It was really fun
Yeah.
because I think the main thing that was helpful was tonally. It helped them because they sort of understood, okay, this is the tone for this scene, which I think for an actor is unusual to have that, right? You kind of just, you're there working with your scene partner, but you don't know exactly how it's going to fit. And I think having that tone there is helpful for them to understand like how they fit into the narrative. I'm speaking for them. Obviously, I don't quite know. But I think as an actor that is helpful, you know. And before production too, I had like a playlist for both my actors as well. And I find music to be really helpful for me to convey to actors sort of like the emotions that I'm going for. So
oh my god, I want to be in your set. You make a playlist of emotions.
Always.
I love that.
Yeah.
And you know, again, when it's you know, I mean, again, I mean, goodness me, the score was so beautiful, and cinematically it was so beautiful to watch. But how did you, in this context, work with your actors to kind of create this, you know, the detail that you needed that came across that clearly wasn't through dialogue but came through their interactions?
That was tricky because I really wanted it to feel real.
Yeah.
Right? Like the relationship needs to feel real, and yet the film is like a lot of snapshots too.
Yeah.
And so one thing that I think helped for both me and my actors were I actually wrote scenes that weren't in the script for them to get into scenes. And so we'd oفتimes like prepped, like they would start acting the scene, but we wouldn't start rolling until later once they got into the emotion. Because it's hard when it's, you just have these snapshots and it's not a full scene, right? And so like the argument scene, for instance, like I wrote out the argument for them and we blocked that whole thing out. And then started rolling when, you know, we needed it.
Did you kind of find things, because again, with no dialogue, did you kind of find things sometimes that, you know, weren't everything blocked, but you just was there things you discovered in the journey, like on set, like, oh no, I like that, or keep that? Was there moments like that?
Definitely. Like I love working with my actors. They oftentimes are smarter than me in terms of knowing their characters so well, and so there are a few scenes where I like allowed them to be more, you know, flexible with the dialogue, or we discovered things together. Like one scene, especially the scene with the piano. It's like how is that going to play out and feel really realistic? And they're both musicians too, and so that was super helpful. So they understood, you know, what was required.
I think it was so nice. It was almost like scary enough. It felt almost like a documentary. Like I felt they were so like real. Like it was just, they felt like a real couple going through this, and it was just a real breakup. Like this really was really happening. I was almost felt like, should I be listening to this? Like, they need a bit of moment with them, you know what I mean? But what was also just breathtaking in the sense of just through the score as well is just, it was, you know, so nice to, you know, see being part of the LGBTQ as well, is to see a couple that were just being, you know, there wasn't sort of a certain highlight to their queerness. They were just a couple. They've been through this experience. They're in love. They break up, just like any other couple. I mean, obviously, you know, you understand that too, but like that really came across so.
Well, thank you.
I'm glad we don't see as many as we'd like to see.
That was really important to me. Like, you know, also casting, right? Both actors are queer. And that was important to me, especially because it's like I know there are a ton of talented queer musicians out there. Like you can find them. So that was something I really wanted to highlight. And to your point, like I feel like I've seen films before where it's like you have this big, bold, operatic sort of love story narrative, but like I wanted that to be like particular to the queer community. So I'm happy that came across. It's not all sunshine and rainbows in the queer community, I tell you, it's not.
What have you learnt mostly from making this film, from this particular project?
That's such a challenging question to answer. I think like one big thing is I do want to keep making films like that explore the boundaries of music and film together, because I do think that is something that I, like you were saying earlier, that I can bring. Right, I've studied music since I was 5. Like it's been a huge part of my life, and I think music and film are so important to have together, right? And oftentimes you get to the edit and you bring a composer on later, and I'm like really interested in like having that done earlier, right? And like having the music be a part of the world. So
no, Kenya, you need to, because honestly, I mean, it wasn't necessarily good, but there were moments when I was like, I wasn't breathing because I was in the flow of the music. I was interacting with the scene. I'm like, I'm in this right now, you know, and that's the power of music with a visual sense is so incredible. Like it, you know, and you know, we weren't asking for dialogue because you gave us everything.
Yes.
What did you, I mean, so just that's from your own personal experience. What did you want your audience to experience from your film?
I think love is very universal, and I like want people to sort of experience that journey, you know? And I think the other thing too is just like how important art is for expressing who you are, right? Like I've always used art in my own life to deal with things that I'm going through or like reflect on those things as well. And so I hope that comes across as well, like the power of art to be able to heal.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, your film, even though it may feel like it's, you know, I always say it's a film, there's always something in there for everyone to make it feel universal and relatable to you. There's always something in a film, and your film certainly had that. I know you've alluded to the direction we're going next, but is there anything that you're working on next, or what's happening?
Yeah, I'm actually currently in post-production on a doc feature, actually, so kind of moving into a different genre a little bit. We just wrapped production actually last month. On that, so I'm editing that, and it'll be a journey. A lot of footage to go through, but it's a documentary about a Tibetan medical doctor and his ideas on compassion in Tibetan medicine. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, we're ready for it. Bring it back to us, please.
Yeah. And then, you know, working on my own ideas for like a narrative feature too, but those are always sort of cooking.
That's amazing. And just finally, because it's so nice to get it from, have it also as a filmmaker, but also from a, you know, as a composer as well. I think the music is essential to how we feel about a film. For any filmmakers out there that bring on a composer, any advice that you would share when you're choosing your composer or your score? Yeah,
I think the important thing is to communicate tone really clearly, emotion really clearly, like what is the emotion you're going for, because you know a good composer is able to capture that, right? I think that's like the most important thing, and obviously like if you can bring on a composer earlier,
exactly.
the better, helpful, so they have time. But you know, obviously that's not always possible. But if you can, then
see, hear it, listen out there, filmmakers. Make sure you always support your composers. And no, that was really good advice and important. Kenya, thank you so much for joining us here. Really, really special to have your film. Thank you for Give, and we're ready for your documentary. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
It was
a pleasure.
Thank you, Kenya, everybody.